All right, let's dive in. Today, we are flipping the script on a personality trait that gets a really bad rap and is, frankly, wildly underestimated. We're going to dig into the hidden advantages of being an introvert and how those quiet strengths can actually become your most powerful asset. Let's get to it. Oof, this right here. This is where it starts for so many of us. This quote from a Reddit user just perfectly captures that gut-wrenching feeling of being put on the spot, Especially when the stakes are so high. It really feels like the world just isn't built for those of us who need a second to think before we open our mouths. And it really makes you wonder, seriously, right? Why does it always feel like the person who talks the most, the loudest, and the fastest is the one who ends up getting ahead? It's a feeling a lot of people share, this sense that our jobs, our social lives are all just arenas built for one specific kind of personality. And that gets us right to the heart of the problem, what you could call the introvert's dilemma. There's this widespread, almost unspoken assumption that to be successful, you have to be an extrovert, that success has a certain sound and, well, it's loud. This isn't just a feeling. There's actual data that backs this up. A study that was highlighted in Psychology Today found that extroverts have a 25% higher chance of being in a high-earning job. 25%! That number pretty much validates all the anxiety in that first quote, doesn't it? It shows there's a real, measurable bias going on.
So this all feeds into what some people call the extrovert ideal. When we picture a successful leader or game-changing entrepreneur, who do we see? Usually it's someone bold, commanding, quick on their feet, someone who literally thinks out loud, just filling every bit of space with their energy and ideas. That's the stereotype we're all measured against. But what if that picture is totally incomplete?
Which brings us right here. It is time to look way beyond that loud stereotype. What if the very things that make introverts feel like they don't fit in are actually their secret weapons?
This lays out the contrast so well. Where the ideal celebrates the assertive speaker, the introvert's advantage is being a deep listener. While one person is thinking out loud, the other is a reflective thinker, actually processing information inside. And while one might want to be the center of attention, the other is a keen observer, picking up on all the little details that everyone else is missing. These aren't weaknesses. They're just different, incredibly powerful strengths.
And this, right here, is probably the most important distinction we can make. Introversion is not the same thing as being shy, not at all. Shyness is basically social anxiety. Introversion, though, is all about energy. Extroverts get their battery charged by being around people, while introverts recharge it with quiet and solitude. It's just a different operating system, a different way of processing the world. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get into the first of these quiet superpowers, the power of hyperfocus. This idea, which comes from Chris Bailey's book, is like it was tailor-made for the introverted mind. Hyperfocus is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a state of intense, incredibly productive concentration. It's about deliberately pointing your full attention at one single important thing and just blocking out all the noise. And it's not just about trying harder, it's about strategically managing your attention, which is honestly one of the most valuable things you have. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Take a look at this chart and how it breaks down distractions. See those bottom two boxes? Control. We're talking about things like your email notifications, your phone buzzing, social media. Because introverts are often more deliberate and less drawn to constant new things, they can be absolute masters at creating environments where they can do deep work. They naturally build the walls that protect their focus, which lets them go super deep on a problem and come back with something brilliant. Okay, so locking in and focusing is a massive advantage. But what happens when you're not focused? Well, for the introverted mind, that's not just downtime. That's where a totally different kind of magic starts to happen.
This is the other side of the coin to hyperfocus, and it's called scatter focus. And listen, this isn't just spacing out. It's an intentional mode where you purposefully let your mind wander. Maybe you're out for a walk, or washing dishes, or just looking out the window. This is the time when your brain gets to work, connecting all these different ideas and spotting patterns nobody else saw.
The author of Hyperfocus has this perfect metaphor for it. Scatter focus is like running a disk defragmenter on your brain. All those little bits of information, those conversations you had, articles you read, random thoughts. This is when your mind quietly starts to reorganize all of it. It takes all those scattered files and puts them together, forming new, solid, and often super innovative ideas. It's that quiet, reflective work that leads to the big aha moment.
So how does all this amazing internal stuff actually translate to the outside world? Well, that brings us to our next superpower, which is all about how introverts interact with other people. The art of illumination.
We have all been there. You're in a meeting, a conversation, with someone who just dominates the entire space. Their energy is so huge that it almost makes you feel smaller, and your own ideas just seem to shrink. The Psychology Today article calls these people diminishers. But then you have the illuminators. These are the people who, just with their quiet attention, make you feel totally heard. They create a space where you feel smart, you feel valued, and you feel safe enough to share your absolute best ideas. They don't just hear your words. They actually listen to what's behind them. This is a classic introvert advantage. And this illuminator's edge has real, tangible benefits for business. Because they're better listeners, they can really understand what a client's problem is. Because they're more observant, they spot the subtle cues and the needs that aren't being met that lead to true innovation. And because they're more reflective, they don't just react, they take the time to diagnose the root cause of a problem, which saves time, money, and a whole lot of frustration.
Okay, let's pull all of this together. We've got these incredible superpowers: hyperfocus, scatterfocus, and illumination. So how do we actually apply them to that terrifying, real-world problem we started with? Negotiating your own salary.
Here's a practical game plan. First, just like a Reddit user advised, reframe the whole thing. You're not bragging, you are advocating for a valuable asset, which is you. Second, use that hyperfocus. Do the deep dive, research the salaries, and build a case based on facts. Third, use your reflective clarity to justify what you're asking for with data, connecting your skills directly to what they need. And finally, the ultimate introvert power move. Get comfortable with silence. Make your case, state your number, and then just stop talking. The pressure to fill that quiet moment often works in your favor. You're not being passive, you're being incredibly strategic.
This is about so much more than just getting a raise. This is about recognizing a huge shift in what we value. It's about a quiet revolution in how we think about leadership and success.
I want to just let this quote from Psychology Today sit for a second. Imagine a totally new ideal for leadership. It's not the person on stage with the booming voice. It's the person in the chair quietly thinking, observing, and really truly understanding. This is a leader who innovates not because of their personality, but because of their depth of insight. So here's the bottom line. The skills that we need for the future of work, things like deep thinking, genuine connection, careful observation, and creative problem solving, these are the exact skills that introverts have been cultivating their entire lives. The world is finally starting to catch up. So as we wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with a question to think about. Whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, or somewhere in the middle, what is the quiet strength that you have that you think the world needs more of? What's your quiet superpower?